Hello everyone, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Allison.
And this is Nerd of the Week, a randomly generated fandom podcast.
I've just decided that I'm going to do a new fanfare every week.
I love it. Generator's adding a new swazzy touch to our word announcement.
So anyway, what is our word? Oh, you're the one who's supposed to ask. So sorry, I've tread on your toes.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, we can shake it up every once in a while.
The word of the week is kitchen.
Kitchen.
It's kitchen. Yay!
Yay! All right, you're gonna be mad at the definition.
I
of chicken.
almost started saying my quote, but obviously I'm going to save it. I'm really trying to spice it up today.
Just completely out of order. Something about
So sorry.
kitchen caused Allison just to be completely out of order.
For once, my kitchen is actually very clean. So now the kitchen of my mind must be out of order.
The kitchen of my mind is out of order. Allison 2023.
But anyway, you were saying I'm going to hate the definition.
Yeah.
Okay. It is a room in which food is prepared.
Yep. Done.
Really?
Solid.
Yes.
Full stop.
Awesome.
That's
Perfect.
it. Literally that.
I'm so proud of myself. Wait, were those like exact words or is there slightly different wording?
A room where food is prepared and cooked.
Nice.
So like spot on, dead, perfect.
I
10
would
out of 10.
argue that mine is more encompassing with just prepared because specifying and cooked means it has to be cooked. But sometimes you don't cook the food.
That's
Like,
true. You
If
could
I'm
be
just
making a
chopping
salad.
veggies, I'm not
Yeah.
cooking that salad.
I mean, you could.
The
It'd
salad
be
might
weird.
be on fire, but just because of the hot flavors I'm including,
Or
not because I've cooked it.
or your 16-year-old me who accidentally set a salad on fire. Did you know croutons go boom and just light up? That was a fun day to learn.
Okay. Was your kitchen still around after you learned that?
It was.
Okay.
It was. I was lighting candles, and you know how like the candle wicks sometimes are a little long and it'll like fall off.
No.
Like the tall candles, not the like scented round candles. Anyway,
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
I was being slightly.
Okay.
It was like a bougie friend party that we were having. That was just like dress up fancy and have ridiculous things. So it was like we were trying to do like a themed fancy party. So we
Yeah.
had tall candles, and I lit the candle, and the top of the wick fell, and then I went to stop it because 16-year-old me thought I could stop fire, and I hit it instead with my hand. It landed into the salad, which did not have salad dressing on it yet, because that's always the question people ask. And then the croutons caught fire, and then the whole salad was on fire, and I was literally standing there going, I have literally set fire to a salad. And my friend Savannah, laughing hysterically, picked it up, put it in the sink, and then rinsed it off. And you know what? We still ate it.
You know, it's like those fancy bougie wilted salads that you see sometimes.
Like a flambe, is that the right word?
Yeah. Awesome.
It was an experience that happened to me.
That's a very good experience.
Speaking of experiences that happen, I am bringing the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Ooh! Yay!
Have you seen this movie?
Yeah, I have. I think
love
I
this
messaged you the first time I saw it.
Yeah, I think you did. I think I had asked you to watch it, and then you were like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I'm like, this is my movie. This movie is mine, is what I said. So I would have brought it at some point as well. I'm glad you're bringing it, though. It's very good.
It's so good. It's Wes Anderson, made in 2014, question mark?
That sounds legit. It has
starring-
2014 vibes.
Yeah, it does, right? Especially 2014 Wes Anderson. It stars Ralph Fiennes, I think is how you say his name. He's the guy who played Lord Voldemort, but I don't know how to say his last name.
really?
He's in a lot of things, actually.
That. Okay,
But
cool.
every time
Good
I
for
look him up, I'm like, oh, it's Voldemort. And a whole plethora of cast, including like Tilda Swinton. Oh gosh, what's his name? Bill Murray's in it. Jude Law's in it.
Bill Murray's in it? Who is
Bill
he?
Murray's in. He's one of the Orders of the Secret Key. He's one of the concierge.
That's probably why I didn't recognize them, because they're all up in their like mustaches and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Jeff Goldblum's in it for a hot second. William Dafoe is in it. It's actually fairly star-studded.
Oh my goodness. Okay, do tell us about this wonderful movie
that
I love so dearly.
So we start. I learned that the Grand Budapest Hotel is like very, very loosely based off of a book. That it. Oh God, what's the name of the book? Hang on, I have it written down because
Is it not the Grand Budapest Hotel?
It's not the Grand Budapest Hotel. And in fact, having read the synopsises of the book, because I was like, if there's a book like the Grand Budapest Hotel, absolutely would read the crap out of it. But a writer who I'm gonna butcher his name, but it's Zweig.
Zweig.
Yes.
Zweig?
Zweig. Stefan Zweig.
And he's not the writer that's mentioned in the movie, right?
He is. That's the beginning opening, like based off of the writings of Stefan Zweig. And then he's got Beware of Pity, 24 Hours.
Wait, I guess he's not the. Hold on. I'm remembering the movie. Isn't like the narrator the writer, essentially?
So, yes. But also, or it might be at the end. At some point, Wes Anderson credits this real life writer for like the vibes of the movie.
Okay.
And it's all these like depressing, sad books like 24 Hours in the Life of a Woman, Beware of Pity, The World of Yesterday.
Oh my.
The Post Office Girl, which having read a little bit about them, they're not like the most upbeat, and I guess the Grand Budapest Hotel isn't the most upbeat either, but
I guess not.
So I can understand the vibe, so I'm kind of curious to see. I probably will be sad reading the book, but I feel like I should at least read one of these, because if it at least inspired this movie, it's probably worth like reading. And he also seems like a literary novelist who I should probably have put into my list of people that I have read, because they are important. I can't come up with that word, but you know what I'm meaning. The books you should read before you die thing. Anyway.
I don't subscribe to any such list, but okay.
Anyway, so we start off with a framing device of a woman in a cemetery visiting a shrine of a renowned writer, and there's like a bust of a guy that is has like all these keys hanging on it, and then there's like a book opened, and it just says author on it, and then it doesn't give you the name, and then she sits down in front of it and then opens up the book, The Grand Budapest Hotel. And so this book, which was written in 1985, recounts the author's visit one time to the Grand Budapest Hotel in 1968 when he was on vacation, where he meets Zero Mustafa, the owner of the Grand Budapest Hotel, and he spends a couple of days there, and then Zero comes in, and the concierge is just kind of like bored and not super into anything, and I think it's Jude Law who is the writer, or the young writer.
Okay, yeah.
And the actor who plays the young writer, and then he is like leaning on the concierge table like, who's that guy? Everyone just seems to like bow around him, and he's like, oh, you don't know? That's the owner. And he always rents out this little tiny like room that just fits a bed that's like by the elevator shaft. Like he's just an eccentric old rich guy. And so the writer goes up to Zero and is like, hi, am so fascinated by this hotel, and like you're very, very well known. And Zero was known to have a bunch of money for a long time, and then slowly as the war happened, and then the travel and tourist industry started to go away, the Grand Budapest Hotel kind of fell into ruin, but he would sell off all of his other things before he would get rid of the Grand Budapest. And so he was like, why do you hold on to this hotel? And so Zero goes, if you really want to know, join me for dinner and I'll tell you my story. And then we have another framing device of Zero telling the author, who I've blanked on his name, but is Jude Law.
We can just call him Jude Law. It's okay.
Jude Law. So Zero telling the author about his life. And so then we flash back to, I think it's 1932 or it's the 30s. And Zero is like probably 16, maybe 18, young. And is the newly hired lobby boy of the prestigious Grand Budapest Hotel run by Monsieur Gustave. And it kind of is told with older Zero's like narration about how he would strike up affairs with old wealthy clients, and he was always just enamored, or they were always enamored with him.
Monsieur Gustave, that is, right? Not Zero.
Not Zero. Monsieur Gustave. Because honestly, Gustave is the main character of this whole thing.
Yes.
And the driving force of just... The man is just purely eccentric, and I love him. But we open to the Madame D, I think her name is. Madame D Slots Lutz, I think is the full name. She's played by Tilda Swinton, and she's sitting in her car, and she's about to be driven off, and she's like, I can't leave. And he's like, you always get like this before you leave. Like, you're going to be fine. And she's like, I'm convinced someone's going to murder me. And he's like, dear, you're going to be fine. You're the picture of health. And she's like, okay.
Which you can be very healthy and still be murdered.
This is true.
But anyway.
Then she's like, okay, but I'm worried. And he goes, you're going to be fine. It's okay. And don't worry, I will see you next time. And then she drives she has her butler drive her off. And then they're standing outside of the Grand Budapest. And Gustav keeps asking these questions. And Zero, who has literally been here for like 15 minutes, is just like agreeing with him. Like, yep.
Right? He's like, Isn't she the most fine woman? He's like, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Like, just constantly like, sure, yeah. She seemed a little off though. Yeah. And then he turns around and he goes, who are you? And he's like, I'm the new lobby boy. And then he shouts for one of the other people who works with him, who opens up the window up top.
Like the accountant or something, I think.
The accountant, yeah. And he's up like 4 stories up and just opens the window and looks down. He goes, who is this? Who hired him? And he's like, it's on like a probationary period, pending your approval, of course. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he then brings Zero in and takes Zero under his wing and starts teaching him how to be the best lobby boy and how you need to anticipate the needs of people before they even need them. And
there's like a great montage of him like becoming better and better.
Yeah. And like Zero's like carrying a chair around or like holding up a menu to hide a woman from her husband while she's having an affair. And then sometimes he'll follow Gustav, and then Gustav will turn and look at him and be like, going into a room, go now. And then because Gustav definitely was sleeping with a lot of the older clients, and he theorized that a lot of people came to the Grand Budapest just for him, for the attention they gave him. And they always had to be rich, they always had to be blonde, and they always had to be divorced or something like that. There was like a certain number of criteria.
Yeah.
And then
for him to like be attracted enough to them to like even try a flirtation, basically.
Yeah. Oh, they had to be desperate, they had to be rich, and they had to be blonde.
Yes, just like him.
Just like him. And then we pull back to the author and older Zero talking, and Jude Law's like, why blonde? And Zero's like, they just all were. I don't know. That's just how they were. And then one of my favorite scenes is Zero worked a lot, and part of his thing was he had started in a kitchen service and then worked his way across to a like a bakery or something like that, and then he ended up at the Grand Budapest. And like as Gustav's interviewing him, he's like, so experience 0, where did you educate? Well, I was at education 0, and then family 0, and that's why Zero has his name Zero.
Oh no.
And Zero was able to live at the hotel, and so basically he was there all the time. He didn't have any days off, but he liked doing the job, and it paid well, and it gave him a place to eat and sleep. And Gustav would go off every night on these ridiculous sermons where he would just
to the rest of the staff
who were just trying to have their break and eat dinner. And then like the accountant who would stand behind him would read the notes, and then once it was like the important business was done, like the stuff that you actually need to have at a business meeting, and then he was just like postulating and just like talking about some random nonsense or reading a poem or one of his favorite books, and he'd get like really absorbed into it. The accountant would just be like, okay, go ahead and eat now, and then everyone would just completely block him out and start eating soup.
But Zero absorbed some of it.
He did. And Zero loved his like eccentricities. And then one day they get news that Madame D had mysteriously died about a month after her last visit to the hotel. And so Gustav is devastated and was like, she warned me and she told me that she might, and now we need to go visit her. I need to say goodbye. And Zero's like, okay, that sounds good. Why am I coming with you? And then he's like, go light a candle, and gives him like a quarter or equivalent of whatever a quarter was to go light a candle at the church. And then it turns into this whole like shenanigans of how he needs to have the change, but then also make sure he picks up an item from the bakery and like this, that, and the other thing. And it just keeps going longer and longer. And he's like, do you want me to go? Or should I just
still go light the candle?
Should I still go light the candle? And there's a lot of just like postulating. And then Gustav gets this idea that he's going to go on a train to go visit her. And then Zero keeps following him. And then he's finally like, go light the damn candle. Like, get away from me. And he's like, okay. And then we cut to them on a train heading towards wherever Madame D lived. And they are stopped by like a border patrol because it's like right on the cusp of some occupation that my historical knowledge is some war, some occupation, functionally not great times. And they come by, and then they're like looking at people and checking their papers and making sure they're okay to travel. And Gustav gives him his paper, and Zero gives like this like work visa, but it's not really legit, and it's folded up a bajillion times and like dirty and probably handwritten. And
I was always under the impression that it was actually legit.
Oh,
was I bamboozled?
I thought it wasn't legit because Zero's a refugee, so I thought because he snuck in to the country, and so he probably had some kind of paper that was like handed to him at the border when the refugees were like allowed into the country, but I don't know that it went through like air quotes the proper channels. It's never really addressed. I just assumed it wasn't legit. It might be legit, and the border patrol guys are just douchebags, which also very feasible.
I mean, I guess maybe I was as bamboozled by Mr. Gustav as the border patrol was, because he says, I've checked the documents myself. I'm like, okay, it tracks. He checked them. He wouldn't hire anybody who's not legit.
So he gives me like really strong, charismatic bard energy, where he just rolled a really high perception or deception roll.
Yeah,
that was how I interpreted the scene. But he could have. Either is optional, because I always figured he viewed Zero as the son he never had. Mm-hmm. So of course he was going to put himself on the line and just be like, no, he's fine. Like, don't worry about it. He's my bellboy. I need him. Like, you can't take this man. Regardless, the border patrol guys start to try to take Zero, and Gustav like throws a punch because he's like, no, that's my bellboy, you can't have him. And there starts to be some whistleblowing, and then there's like an inspector guy. Oh gosh, I don't remember his name.
Oh gosh, I don't remember either. I know who you're talking about.
But the inspector, he's played by Edward Norton. I remember the actors in this, but I don't remember their names. Edward Norton comes in and then sees Gustav and is like, guys, this is ridiculous. Calm down. Don't you know who this man is? This is Monsieur Gustav. And he was really nice to me when I was a kid. Not elaborated on beyond that, but at some point there was a rapport with this inspector and Gustav, so he calms down the situation and then gives Zero a piece of paper that's like a pass, and he's like, it's not going to be forever, but this should help you travel right now, and then you need to get like legitimate documentation before the war breaks out, because otherwise it's going to be really hard for you to get it. So he helps them out, and then they get to continue on their way, and they're both sitting there with bloody noses because they got into a fist fight in this train car, and Gustav goes off on like another rant about how beautiful life is, and then he's like, fuck it, and just stares out the window like, this I'm not gonna pull the wool over his eyes this time.
I love it when he just like gives up the facade. He's just like, I'm too tired for this right now.
Right now, yeah. He's just like, all right, no, it's not gonna work. So they end up at Madame D's estate, where they run into the surviving relatives and the attorney, Deputy Vilmos Kovacs. I remember Kovacs.
Yes.
But he's played by Jeff Goldblum, and he's the one who's going through the will. Mm-hmm. And
he actually works for the Budapest Hotel in some capacity too.
He
right?
does, yeah.
He's like their lawyer as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they know each other. And there's a brief interaction where he sees Madame D and visits with the body and has like a whole like, you look beautiful. The embalming fluid did you wonders. Like, you even look better than you have in the last 10 years, as he's talking to her dead body.
And then he looks at her nail polish color and he's like, oh, I told you not to do that color.
No, she changed it because he told her at the beginning.
That's right.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, you did change the nail polish. I'm so proud of you. Because he's so bougie about appearances.
One of my favorite tropes in anything is when it's like someone, like they know how to get business done, and they'll like they're really cool and they like can handle this themselves well in like ridiculous situations, but also they got to keep up appearances, and they will comment on your appearance too. Like, I just love that.
And it's just like out of nowhere with like no prompting whatsoever. It just, and inappropriate times to comment on it too.
Like, you're being held at gunpoint. Are you sure you're wanting to wear that hat right now?
But yeah. Really, that hat? Yeah. They have a brief moment with two of the wait staff of Madame D. One's like a maid, and the other's, I think, is Madame D's like butler, whose name is Serge. And they're, before anything happens with the will reading, he's like staring at Zero and Gustav, and Zero comments like he's never been so like, he will never forget the look on this man's face because it's so aggressive. And they're in the kitchen of this building, and there's this long moment of them just staring at each other with all the workers, very Wes Anderson, with like all this chaos going on, but then there's just them staring at each other from across the kitchen. And then he like brings him aside and warns him that there's something shady going on, and that they're going to be given a priceless painting, and just to be careful. So he basically kind of gives him like a heads up, like something fishy's happening. And then they go to the will reading, and there's like these absurd amount of pages and pages, because she would just like constantly comment, and he's like, I don't really know like the legal bindings of all the alterations she kept making to her will. But here we go. And so he starts like reading it off, and then she gives a bunch of stuff to her son and her daughters, and then Gustav is gifted Boy with Apple, which is this priceless Renaissance painting. And for whatever reason, Dmitri, her son, is just pissed about it. He's like,
I love Dmitri.
Yeah.
He's so unreasonable.
Right? He's got one paint. This man got all of her fortune and all of her wealth and all of this stuff, and he's mad that he got this one painting, and he immediately demands that Gustav is arrested and is outrageous. And he's like, he was sleeping with my mom and all this, and Gustav doesn't really like deny it, but he's basically like, she was a grown woman making decisions. Like I never forced her into anything. We were just having a good time. And so Kovacs just kind of like puts everything on hold, and they're trying to get like police involved and all this. And Gustav and Zero end up in the room with Boy with Apple. And they're just sitting there, like, looking at everything. And then Zero asks about the painting. And Gustav goes off on some, like, random long discussion about how it's an amazing portrait and blah, 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 blah. And Zero, like looking around at all the other stuff that probably is worth more than anything he's ever made in his life. And Gustav's like, the rest of this is garbage, utter trash, but this is perfect. And then Zero goes and gets a chair and puts it in front of the fireplace where this painting's hanging, and then just kind of looks expectantly at Gustav. And then they just straight up steal the painting and take off.
Yeah.
And it's so funny.
I think, don't they replace it with something else?
A very, like, vulgar painting of two women having sex. Like, it's, like...
The very opposite of this, like, charming, innocent painting.
Yeah, of, like, a young kid with an apple. And they hang it up there, and then they just take off. And then literal, like, days go by, and they get back to the Grand Budapest. They make a plan that they're going to sell the painting immediately, or maybe they won't, or they don't know, but they've decided that they're like brothers in arms now. And then Gustav makes the promise of, if I die before you, and I probably will, I'll leave all of my fortune to you. And Theodore's like, all right, sounds good. And they like shake hands on it. Mm-hmm. And they hide the painting in the vault at the Grand Budapest.
And they, like, hide it behind something else, too. Like, some random piece of paper that they, like, put over top of it, I think.
Yeah, so they had it wrapped up in a piece of paper that they had hidden. And they don't see it, but the audience sees a piece of paper that Serge had slipped in there that is important to the plot later. But it gets wrapped up in the paper by Serge. And so he had expected them to open it at some point, and they just never did. But they locked it in a vault, hidden behind...
Which I don't know why he'd expect them to open the painting immediately. It seems like they'd want to keep it hidden. So I think that was Serge's downfall. He's not the master planner.
He was doing his best.
Just doing his best.
Yeah, and then they hide it under, like, they put a fur shawl over it, and then they lock it, and then you need, like, magnifying glasses to read the code to the lock in, like, the back room of the Grand Budapest. And then, like, literal days or weeks go by, and Dmitri is in the room where the painting was with his sisters, and he looks up and he's like, where is Boy with Apple? What is this? And the sisters are like,
so mad.
He's so pissed about it. And then the sisters are like, oh, we thought you just, like, put it away. And, like, it's like, it took, like, weeks for you to notice it was missing. So he demands that Gustav gets arrested, because clearly he must have murdered Dimitri's mom to get this painting and all the unforetold riches or whatever that this painting comes from. And the inspector, who is the same inspector that stopped him on the train, shows up, and like as they're hiding the painting, there's like a very dramatic, like as they're hiding the painting, one of the other attendants at the Budapest pulls their head around and is like, the police are here for you. And the inspector's name is Henkels, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Henkels is standing there, and my favorite scene of the whole movie is them standing there and Gustav going, so you think that because the painting is missing and she left that to me, that I murdered Madame D. And like before he finishes his sentence, Gustav just takes off running through the hotel, up the stairs, and like out off to the right. And then the police just start running after him. And it's such just like a human reaction to absolutely not. I do not want to be arrested.
Like, please get me out of this situation.
Please, I want to leave. And then we cut to Gustav is then in prison, and Zero has been delivering pastries from Mendel's, which is a well-known bakery.
Where his fiance also works.
Yeah, there's a short aside about Agatha, who is a girl with a facial birthmark that looks like Mexico, and she makes pastries at this guy's place, and he's like a very like staunch, rigid German guy who gave her a place to live and a job, but like is very, very strict. But he Zero and Agatha like sneak around, and they slowly develop a relationship because he would go to Mendel's all the time to pick up pastries for clients, and then he was starting to pick them up for Gustav. So they'd start to make this budding, adorable relationship, and they eventually get engaged, and there's a scene where Gustav is like interviewing with her and like getting information from her, and then she stands up to go stand next to Zero, and he's like, did he flirt with you? And Agatha's like, yes, he flirted with me. And then Zero like immediately like looks at Gustav and points at him and is like, don't flirt with her. I don't care what else you do, but no, stop it. Leave my fiance alone.
I know. He says that like many times throughout the movie. Like whenever they are near each other, he's like, don't flirt with her.
Yeah. Anytime Agatha is brought up, he just like adds that as like a caveat, like don't stop.
But also like I think Agatha obviously knows and like does not care. Like she's not gonna give in to his flirting.
Agreed. And I think she finds it funny. And, like, how protective Zero gets of her. So I think she kind of nags at him, too. Like, likes the attention and then, like, riling him up a little bit about it. Gustav has basically taken his concierge job into the prison, where he's like walking around delivering food to people, acting like it's like the cream of the crop, even though it's just mush, and slowly is becoming friends with a lot of the prison crew. And they start talking to, or a group of them pull Gustav aside one day and like close the door. And one line that cracks me up every time is, we think you're pretty straight, Gustav. And he goes, I don't think anyone has ever accused me of that. And then they go, okay, never mind, don't worry about it. And then they're like, we're gonna break out of here. And he's like, it's gonna take a long time for us to get out of here. Do you have tools? And they're like, no. And then they realize they can use the pastries made by Agatha to sneak in hammers and chisels and stuff. So she on the side starts to like tiny little hammers and stuff to fit in these tiny little boxes.
They are so itty bitty,
but she does amazingly to make it look like a biscuit. So like there's no way there could be anything in there. She's like a master baker at this point. And then Zero will sneak them in, and then they are able to sneak out. And Gustav, at one point, they're like climbing down a ladder, and one guy's like threatening to like call him out and like to be like, there's prisoners escaping. And then like this big scary guy that Gustav had become friends with by like continually feeding him mush and just being nice to him, like takes the guy and just like knocks him out and is like, good luck, like just like a little nod of salute, like keep going, I got you.
Right. And I think at that point, Gustav, he's like, oh, thank you, Pinky. You are a most excellent gentleman. I'll remember this forever.
Yeah. And then, so they sneak out, and I see they open a hatch, and there's unfortunately a handful of security guards that are like playing gambling overnight or something like that. And one of them
playing
cards and gambling, and playing gambling.
Sorry.
And one of them jumps in with the knife shiv, or what they referred to it as a specific thing. It's a shiv, but they were like the throat splitting shiv, and he jumps down and like disperses them. And then
I think
the
you
group
mean dispatches them.
Words are hard. He murders them.
Yeah, there you go.
And then I don't think he makes it.
No, that one dies too.
Yeah, but the rest of the group is able to leave. And they do like the shortest moment of silence for him before they like all disappear. And most of the group jumps on this bus, like stops a bus, and then they kill the bus driver, and then they just take
There's
off.
like this whole scene in the background, like it keeps jumping back and forth between Zero and Gustav as they're like talking to like the bus. You see these people like rushing the bus driver and like throwing his body on the ground. It's all like in the background. You can't hear what they're saying. It's so funny.
And then they set out, and then they're basically like in like not Serbia functionally. Like it's just like some like really cold area that's covered in snow and stuff, and they end up at like a random phone booth, and Gustav is saying that he's going to call the Society of Cross Keys, which is the fraternity of concierge, to help prove his innocence. And then my favorite bit is like, they're like, well, who do you call when you need last minute front row tickets to a show or a once in a lifetime opportunity? And like, so the joke is that like all these concierge know each other, and they all have these hookups to like help each other out when they have like bougie clients that need like something yesterday.
Yeah.
And there's this long like phone chain, and that's where Bill Murray is. And he's in that list of the concierge. I think he's the first one to pick up.
Okay.
And then he's the one who, after like a long series of phone calls and people setting each other up, he's the one who shows up in the car and was like, get in the car.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then we cut to Madame D's and Kovacs figuring out that Madame D had a second will that she had written in the event of her murder.
Oh yeah, he's like, it keeps referencing something that's not here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so and then Dmitri realizes that he's not going to get any of the money if Kovacs keeps trying to push it, and he's like, why does it matter? She's dead. Like the guy convicted of her murder is in jail. Like, and he's like, no, I'm a man of the law. I need to follow it to the letter. And he's like actually being an upstanding guy, and Dimitri's not having it. So he hires Willem Dafoe as an assassin, who I think his name is like Jopling or something in the movie, where he kind of just like creepy stalks Jeff Goldblum.
Yes.
For like,
are you going to talk about his cat?
Oh yeah, he threw his cat out the window.
Because Kovacs has this like big fluffy Persian cat that he takes everywhere with him. Mm-hmm. And like just like the most threatening thing, while the son is threatening Kovacs to begin with, I think Joplin is there in that room.
Yeah, he is.
And he just like picks up his cat and throws him out the window right then.
And he's like, did you just throw my cat out the window? Yeah, and then he checks out of the house, and he's got like a little card that's like contents, coat, and dead cat in bag. And then he's being followed creepily by Willem Dafoe on a motorcycle. And Kovacs very quickly realizes that he's being targeted. Mm-hmm. So he gets off on a stop that isn't where he should be getting off to try to like lose his trail, and he ends up in like a big museum and goes through the museum through the back, and it was like almost out, and then Jopling catches him right at the end and like closes the door and like cuts off a bunch of his fingers and then unfortunately kills Kovacs. And then
he was a good guy.
he was just doing his best. But Defoe does such a good job at just being like this silent, terrifying, like assassin type.
Yeah, I don't think he talks at all.
No, or if he does, it's like one word. And then Jopling goes and tries to find Serge's sister in pursuit of Serge, because he puts together that the thing that the will was stolen by Serge and hidden in that painting. And he then sees Zero and Gustav and like veers off and starts chasing them as well. And there's this ridiculous scene where they're at a ski resort, I think.
Right, they're trying to like get to this like temple somehow because there's someone there who knows the truth or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, Serge is at the temple. They're trying to get to Serge because Serge knows what's going on, and the Society Across Keys was trying to get them to the temple, and then that's how they run into Jopling, and then unfortunately, Serge is murdered at the temple, and then they realize what happened, and then they're trying to run away, and then it turns into this, like, ridiculous scene of them riding a bobsled down the hill through, like, a ski route. And I think he's on his motorcycle. And
I think he's on skis.
Oh, he's on skis. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, because he was running away because they saw him murder Serge, and then he was going away on skis, and then they chase him in the bobsled.
Right.
And then he stops, and then the bobsled kind of is harder to stop, and they veer out of control and almost fall off a cliff. And
he thinks that they do fall off the cliff, I think.
So Zero's upside down because his feet are up in the air, and then Gustav is hanging off the cliff.
Oh, that's right. Dramatically.
And then Serge is Jopling is standing over him and is like trying to stomp his fingers, and then starts hitting the ground to like break the ice that is holding Gustav up. And then Zero, I think, straight up just pushes him off the cliff. And,
yes.
And then Jopling goes and falls to his death, and he pulls up Gustav, and then Gustav starts to like go off on this like sanctity of life and like a moment of silence and all that. And then the investigation troop, who has discovered that Gustav has escaped, like shines like a spotlight on them, and they're like, never mind, let's go. And then
like they're across the canyon or something, and they spot them.
Yeah, and they're like, all right, we're out, and they ran away. And so they get back to Agatha, where they convince her to go into the Grand Budapest, because now they know that Serge had hidden something in Boy with Apple, so they send her in to go get Boy with Apple. And then while she's there, Dimitri sees her and
with the painting, and with
the painting, and
he
so
clocks that painting. He's like, that's mine.
Yeah, and so she, instead of leaving the hotel, because she shows up because the hotel's being occupied by the occupying force now, and so she shows up like under the guise of
quasi-Nazis, essentially.
Yeah, and under the guise of like, here's a bunch of sweets from Mendel, and I'm just gonna go bring them in the back. And the guy up front is just like super enamored with these treats, so like it's an easy way to buy yourself into the hotel now. And she then sees him and ends up sneaking up or going upstairs into the elevator instead of leaving like she had intended. And Dimitri like stops the elevator and goes in, and there's this really tense moment where he's like looking at that and looking at her.
Oh, it's such a tense, so awkward. Like if this actual scene played out in real life, it would be so creepy.
So creepy. And then she sneaks out of the elevator, gets out of the elevator, and then Dimitri waits for a second and then walks out of the elevator too. And then he sees her, and they have the scene where like they're walking and she's walking faster, and then she turns the corner and just books it down the hallway. And then Dimitri or Gustav and Zero realize Dimitri's in the hotel, so they go in to try to save Agatha, and Dimitri then sees them, so he shoots at Gustav, which then every single person in the hotel is apparently some form of active military, and they all open up their doors and just start shooting wildly at each other. And Henkels comes in and is like, what is happening? Stop. Everyone stop shooting at each other. And then Zero finds Agatha hanging from the balcony, holding on to Boy with Apple. And she's like, there's something in the painting. And so he goes to try to help her, falls off, and then they end up falling on the Mendel truck. They're fine. But,
right. There's enough squishy confectionery in there.
Saved by cake. And then they get up and they read the second will, which made Gustav the beneficiary of the fortune and basically pins Dmitri as the murderer of his own mom so that he could get all of his mom's money. And then they get they hang up Boy with Apple at the hotel, and then they have Zero and Agatha have a wedding, and then the last little bit of credits is they're back on a train and they're stopped by another border patrol who tries to kill Zero for the same reason they had been stopped before, but this time there's no Henkels to stop them. And Gustav is able to talk them out of killing Zero, but they take him outside and unfortunately they kill him.
Yeah.
And it's so sad.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to Jude Law and older Zero talking, and he talks about how him and his Agatha and her infant son both got sick of a disease and passed away a couple years later. And he keeps the Budapest Hotel because
they say something like it was smallpox and now it's completely curable with antibiotics, or something like that. Something that is so easy to cure now.
Yeah, but at the time it just takes you out in a week. And it was so sad. And then he's like, yeah, so I don't really talk about her, but I keep this hotel because she loved it. And then he walks away and Jude Law looks legitimately shell-shocked from the story. And then we pull back one more time to the girl who's sitting outside of older author Jude Law's grave reading the book. And that's the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yay! Oh, it's such a wonderful movie.
It's so good. It ends sad, but it's so fun.
I wish so the few times I've watched it, I've obviously watched it all the way through. But I rewatched it a few times as well, and I just kind of sometimes don't finish watching it.
Oh, yeah.
Or I go do something else at the end.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to see the sad
wedding.
part.
The wedding with the Society of the Cross Keys there attending the wedding. That's where I just go. And then they lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
Me too.
Oh my goodness. We're so silly.
Yeah. We just don't want it to end sad. We're just emotionally attached to these characters.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for bringing that, because it's an excellent movie.
It's so good.
All right, cool. I'll give you a quote.
All right.
I'll throw it right down, and you'll guess what it is.
On the kitchen counter.
Yeah. All right. Let me get this here quote up for us. All right. Here we go. It's making me laugh.
Fair
I don't know
enough.
if I can read this quote with a straight face.
I believe in you.
All right. Finger licking, yeah, we cooking up a Super Bowl. In the kitchen, Michelin, irresistible. Feeling prime, state of mind. Finger licking, yeah, we cooking up a Super Bowl. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. It's an excellent quote.
Thank you. Do you happen to know it?
I think I do.
Okay, cool.
I think because of you, I know this.
Cool, okay.
Well,
I'll let you stew upon it.
Oh,
as
good
though
one.
you are a simmering stock in the kitchen.
The kitchen buns keep coming. If you know what the quote is, feel free to let us know on any form of social media. Twitter,
Literally any form.
literally any, using the hashtag Nerd of the Week or NOTWP. We'd love to hear from you. We got or unless it's on TikTok, and then it's at Vampire Sheep spelled with 3s. But if you
Have
look
you
up
done
hashtag,
the TikToking lately?
I'm working on one.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, the motivation is here, so we're trying. And,
Right.
But we have some on just quotes on TikTok, snippets, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter / what X now, Tumblr. Yeah, come interact with us.
Hooray! And watch our YouTube.
Yeah, also YouTube.
I'll tell you about a thing.
All right, please do.
But it's a monster of a thing, so I'm just going to talk about things that I remember and go from there.
Sounds good.
So this was, probably like first year of graduate school, got real obsessed with Downton Abbey.
I'm shocked.
You know you're not.
Color me shocked. Bougie Victorian England. Allison, no
It's
way.
Edwardian, excuse
I'm so
me.
sorry. I'm uncultured swine, I know.
Have you ever watched Downton Abbey?
I've watched some episodes. I haven't
Okay.
watched it in its entirety, but I'm very aware of the characters.
Yeah, it's a little, I guess kind of Game of Thrones-esque as well, in that there's so many characters,
Yeah.
all with their own very important sub-stories. Mm-hmm. So it's like 5 or 6 seasons, and then there's like 2 movies as well. Mm-hmm. So basically, Downton Abbey, it is this like manor house that sits on this huge estate of land, and there's the upstairs people, which are the Crawleys, and then the downstairs people, who are all of the servants and like the farmers, and then there's people like in the city sometimes that they talk to. And the Crawleys are like of the British, not royalty per se, but like there's like Lord Crawley. I don't know how all this works. He's like in the
Upper
House
echelon.
of Lords.
Yeah. Just like bougie, like rich people.
Yeah, so like
Yeah.
they're called lords and ladies essentially. And Lord Crawley's wife is actually a wealthy American who he courted and married partly because of her wealth to like help revitalize and save his estate basically. But now, they've been married for like, I don't know, 20 years or something, and their money is kind of running out. So a lot of the plot kind of focuses on like, how do we continue like having a viable Downton Abbey? And you'd think at first like, well, they're rich people, like they don't need to have this. This is just like them having their whims of like their posh society. But like it actually does impact a lot of other people because they're like the main employer of the town. Like they have all of the servants who work for them, and then like in their lands, like they have tenant farmers who like if they didn't have the land to farm, they wouldn't have any way to make their own living essentially. So like it really does impact more than just them.
Yeah, the impression I got was they aren't the worst of the like lords and ladies, and they actually just don't want the town to crumble.
Right. And they actually like through a lot of the stories, they like are truly friends with a lot of the downstairs people. So like the wife and the daughters, they all have like their personal like lady servants who help them like get ready in the morning and things like that. And they are like their confidants. Like they kind of know all their deepest, darkest secrets, kind of.
Yeah.
So like, for example, one of the things that happens in the first season is Lady Mary Crawley, who's the oldest daughter. There's like this big international dinner kind of thing where there's like a lot of embassies. Yeah, foreign embassies from other places that have like come to visit. And I think it's like the Turkish ambassador, like his son or his concierge, something like that. There's like some, I guess like kind of, they would say exotic kind of guy, which is yucky to say, but I think that's how
Yeah.
he described it. He like comes to visit and he like flirts with Lady Mary, and she lets herself like be drawn in by his flirtations. And so she goes and meets him in his bedroom that night. And they get down to some stuff, but he has like a stroke and dies.
Oh,
And so Lady Mary's like, oh my gosh, if I'm found in here, it's going to be a scandal, and I might also be accused of murder. So she like...
holy hell. I didn't know that.
Oh, wait. No, what it is, she didn't go to his bedroom. He came to her bedroom, and she let him in. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So, like, it's not like she can just, like, leave and run back to her room like, oh, I wasn't there. Nothing happened. She has to get this boy out of her room, and he's dead. So she... like gets her maidservant, which I think her name is Sarah. Oh geez, I hope it is. I'm gonna look it up because there's a lot of people and I should probably have the right name.
I understand.
Oh, Anna, I'm sorry. So her lady is Anna. And then she's like, Anna, you have to help me. We have to drag him back to his room and we have to be quiet. And Anna's like all on board. She's like the friend you call if you need to bury a body, which they literally have to do. And they're like dragging her down, and then like someone opens a door and Lady Mary's like, oh no, we are so caught and my life is ruined. It's her mother though. And her mom is like, very disappointed in her, like, Lady Mary, how on earth could you do this? You're disreputable and a disgrace to the family, but I also don't want a scandal, so I'm gonna help you too. So now those three are like in on the secret. And like the next morning, of course, it's discovered that this guy has like passed away in his bed. They don't suspect any foul play because like, why would there be, essentially?
Yeah.
But basically then Lady Mary's mom kind of uses it against her as like blackmail for the rest of that season of like, you know, I could tell some pretty bad things that you've done. So that she kind of uses that to manipulate Lady Mary a little bit. And then Lady Mary and her sister, who is Lady Edith, they're like have a really bad relationship at the beginning. They literally hate each other. It gets a lot better by the end, but Lady Edith just thinks like everybody loves Mary and she's like the favored child and she's going to inherit everything and she's always like going to be the most beautiful one. And like Lady Edith just like has a real bad time in life for a while. But eventually she like kind of gets more down to earth and like realizes that she doesn't necessarily want to stay in the upper class. So she eventually like falls in love and marries a writer for like a newspaper. And like she met him because she wanted to be a writer as well, kind of. So like they were working together like in this like mail room. No, wait. She doesn't actually marry that guy. She ends up marrying like some duke or something like that. So she ends up outranking them all.
Oh, okay.
But he's like very understanding and progressive and lets her like still have her writing career and doesn't like force her to be
that's good.
Some hoity-toity person that she's not. So it's very good. Let me see some of the downstairs people and partly why I brought this. There is a cook and she has like a scullery maid, I guess, who is Daisy. And then let me see, the cook's name is Mrs. Patmore and she's Irish and wonderful. But they just have like I guess, no, she's not Irish. I'm sorry. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't know where English accents are from, but she's like one of those like, oi, what are you doing, lass? Like that kind of thing.
Cockney?
Yeah, like that. She and Daisy both kind of have like that kind of accent. And like Daisy, when she first starts working there, she's like real little. I think she might be like 15 or 16.
Okay.
And so she knows nothing and she's always making mistakes. And she like tries to help with the cooking, but she like always like substitutes the sugar for salt and, you know, stupid mistakes like that.
Oh God.
But as time goes on, like she obviously grows up and matures and eventually she like falls in love with one of the farmer's sons. And she's like, you know, I think I can actually like make a life for myself. I don't have to stay here forever being just the scullery maid.
Yeah.
So she gets to marry this guy, and like he thinks the world of her, and like she never thought that she would like feel so important, I guess, like important to somebody else. Like she always was looking down on herself, and then finally someone like sees that she's this awesome person, and like that really like makes her into a better person in general. And like Mrs. Patmore has given her like way more important tasks in the kitchen, and like sometimes she's in charge of running things, and like she and Mrs. Patmore are kind of like on the same team instead of like being the strict teacher and the unruly student anymore. So they have like this really cute relationship that develops, and Mrs. Patmore kind of like is almost like her mother figure essentially, but also her friend. So it's just like really nice.
Yeah.
Let me see who else. Oh, there's this wonderful butler whose name is Mr. Carson. He is Lord Crowley's personal butler. And he had been at the mansion like the longest out of everybody, and his life is like so devoted to it. At one point he retires, but then like there's some emergency where like their butler that they hired in place of him like had to leave or something like that, and so they go and like drag him out of retirement, and they're like, Mr. Carson, it's a job that only you can do. And Mr. Carson like straightens his bow tie and stands up straight, and he's like, it would be an honor to work again. He like comes back and like starts immediately ordering people to like polish the silver and like get out the wines and everything like that, and just like resumes his post immediately.
I love that.
He's such a good boy. Like he acts like all like gruff on the outside, but he's like a teddy bear on the inside kind of thing. Like very nice.
I love
nice
those type
boy.
of characters in shows.
Let me see. I'm looking at this list of characters and trying to. Oh, here's a good one. Of course, Maggie Smith is in this. She plays like the supreme Lady Crawley, like the matriarch of the whole establishment. She's like throughout most of the seasons, you think she's dying. She doesn't actually die until like the very, very end.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and she's like kind of secretly best friends with young lady Mary Crawley. So they have like this weird, not weird. I won't say weird. They have this very nice like grandmother-granddaughter relationship where Lady Mary can go to her with like basically any problem that she has, and Miss Maggie Smith will like not judge her too harshly, and she'll offer her like really sound advice, and just very nice. But anyway, so she is like a mastermind, and she like kind of has this plan all along of like who's gonna inherit everything, and it like her will always seems to change based on like what shenanigans other people are getting into.
Sure.
There's also another like it's not her blood related relative. I think it's like someone who married in, but someone of her same generation, who is Isabel Crawley, and they're like frenemies, but like old lady frenemies, and it's really funny because like they're so nice to each other, but like you can just tell they're saying like the meanest things actually. And eventually at the end, like Maggie Smith is like laying on her deathbed, and she's like, where's Isabel? I need her to come to me. And like she confesses to Isabel like, you've been my one like true friend who really understood everything that I was going through, and I don't know what I would have done if you weren't in my life, and I just appreciate you so much. And it's like this whole like character arc of going from like this really stuck up, I'm better than everyone else kind of person to like, I really do like my friends and I appreciate everyone who's helped me. So it's really, really nice.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to think of any other interesting little storylines here. There's this one fun episode. It's almost like kind of like the beach episode, but not quite. Where they have this cricket match.
Downton Abbey has a beach episode.
But it's not a beach episode. They just like clear out this field and they have a nice cricket match, and like everybody is just so excited because like basically all the servants kind of get the day off of work, kind of. Like, I mean, Mrs. Patmore still has to like cater it, but she also like gets to go and attend it, which is always fun. So
Right.
everyone's like dressed up in their finest like Sunday wear, and it's like this bright spring day, and everyone has just like the best time, and everyone's getting along so well. And like Mr. Bates is the pitcher or something like that, and like everybody's just like all harmonious, and like you can really tell it's like they, even though they are maybe of different classes, like they still see each other as people. Like they don't really, the upper class doesn't look down on the lower class, and the lower class like sees the humanity in the upper class, I guess. Mm-hmm. Like it's probably very idealistic of what things actually were like, but I think it's very sweet. And I think that's just about everything that I think I could get into without like going into very minute details about every little person who's here. Because I mean, really, like every character has some connection to every other character.
Yeah.
So like to entangle everybody would be a massive endeavor that I cannot do in one podcast recording that they did over 5 seasons.
Understood. I've heard good things about it, and the episodes I have watched, I've liked a lot.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly well written.
I enjoy the stories and things that have like, and then this person knows this person, and this person kind of knows this person, and like they're all like interwebbed, and then like you find out later that those two used to date or whatever. Like it's fun and it's realistic. It's how life is.
It's like when you meet a new character that comes in, they're like, "Oh, well, we're pleased to have you at the Abbey," and then like someone greets them, and they're like, "Oh, it's you. How nice to have you here." And then you find out like years ago, like they were in school together, and like one of them committed a crime and the other bailed them out or something, and like it's this huge thing. So yeah,
love it. I will watch it. My mom has been trying to get me to watch it forever too. So
yeah,
she's like,
I think you'd like it.
Yeah,
I think you would. Do you? I think you like period pieces, right?
I do.
Like that's a genre you can appreciate.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think at the time I was just watching too many shows that were like overly complicated, like Game of Thrones before it got bad, and like things like that. So it was just like I cannot.
Shade thrown.
Everyone agrees the last season is terrible.
That's true.
So okay, can I have your quote again?
Oh sure, yeah. Let me get it right for you. Coming right up. Okay. I'm gonna again try and read it without laughing.
I believe in you.
Really difficult to read this style of quote without laughing though, because it just sounds so stupid to say. All right. Finger licking, yeah, we cooking up a Super Bowl. In the kitchen, Michelin, irresistible. Feeling prime, state of mind. Finger licking, yeah, we cooking up a Super Bowl.
I assume that this is a Stray Kids song.
It is, yeah.
And just based on the lyrics, I assume it's called Super Bowl.
Yep, it is.
I didn't realize that was the lyrics, because the only part of the song that I know is like the way he says Michelin, and then it's just kind of jarbled mess to me, and I just assumed it was Korean. Clearly it was not. And now I need to go.
This is translated.
Oh, this is translated. Okay.
Also, the song you're thinking of is called God's Menu.
Oh, okay.
This is yet a different food-related kitchen song that they have.
It's weird that it's happened more than once. Okay. I'm going to have to listen to this then, because I thought it was the God's Menu one. But, you know, I'm pretty proud of myself for context cluing my way into the answer.
Yeah. But yeah, you got the quote.
Hooray! Okay. Generator, what is next week's word? Don't know why I'm singing this, but I am.
We always need song.
It's true.
Song is the spice of life. Ha ha. Pun. Kitchen pun again. I can't stop.
Somebody do a pun counter.
Stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. Pun counter on Allison.
Oh no. Anyway.
The next word is Moon.
Moon.
The moon. Oh, and
Hooray!
I know what my quote is going to be.
Oh, good.
Stoked. All right.
I think I know what your quote is going to be too.
Oh man, I'm excited.
If I'm thinking of the quote correctly, I don't know if I am.
Okay,
I guess I know the quote that I would bring, and it may or may not be a real quote. So there we go.
fair enough.
But that's not my job for next week, so you'll never hear my mistake if it's wrong.
I'm gonna call you out on it.
We should end this shenanigan
We should end this
immediately.
podcast. Yes. Thanks for making it to the end of the podcast. We hope you enjoyed our renditions of Grand Budapest and Downton Abbey. And
Did you just call it Downtown Abbey?
Downton?
Yeah, okay.
Downton Abbey? It's just my Midwestern accent being stupid.
Sorry.
I'm still uncultured swine. Continues to be true all the time. And if you enjoyed the podcast and we make you laugh even a little bit, feel free to share with a friend so we can grow as a podcast.
Yay.
I think that's it. So as always, I've been Stephanie,
And I've been Allison.
and we are still not a pyramid scheme. Goodbye.